Good afternoon. Okay. Just want to check I'm in the right place. Yay, I am. Awesome. Okay, so I'm live streaming into my newly named free Facebook group, Wild Awakening Understanding Your Feminine Nature. So welcome. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Charli Wall. And I try my best to answer one question of the week to the field. And then this goes out on my YouTube channel and my Instagram. And if I think it's particularly good, it will go on my podcast, Courage, Dear Heart. So this week's question is from one of my circle members, and my circle community is where we really dive deep into the deeper aspects of our feminine nature and all the kind of intricate, nuanced layers of that. And it's a wonderful community of women. And so I put it out to that field, like before I put it out to the public field, does anyone have a question for me for question of the week? And this question came in, and I thought it was a really interesting question because I'm going to try and touch the pieces of this, but I will not be able to go into the really deep layers of it in this particular forum. But if you are interested, ladies, in deepening your understanding of your feminine nature, I would really encourage you to come into my circle field where I can get my metaphorical hands on you in a group setting, so that you can really learn to understand more about your feminine nature, as it has been a deeply humbling and profoundly life-changing experience for me over the last few years. So this question is, why does a woman stepping into her feminine energy sometimes trigger a man? I thought the more a woman stepped into her high feminine, the more a man relaxed into his masculine energy. So I'm going to repeat the question. And I did caveat this in this free community and said, this may not make sense to you. So if this doesn't make sense to you, just scroll on by. But if there's even a teeny tiny spark of an interest, please do listen. Why does a woman stepping into her feminine energy sometimes trigger a man? I thought the more a woman stepped into her high feminine, the more the man relaxed into his masculine energy. And as I said, I will really, I won't be able to kind of dive into the very deep aspects of this, although I will be doing a transmission in my circle community around some of the pieces of this, which will go deeper, but I will try and touch places which I hope will help you to make sense of this, because there are layers to this and paradox to this. And what I wanted to say was, like, when you are awakening, so the name of this group is Wild Awakening, learning to understand your feminine nature. As you are awakening to your true feminine nature, things will start to feel a bit off. Like you might have friendships around you that suddenly piss you off and you don't really know why. You might suddenly kind of look at your wardrobe and think, that's not even me anymore, because we might be hanging on to a past version of ourselves. You start to get little clues that you may not be able to necessarily understand, but there'll just be sort of places that feel a bit off, like I'm not enjoying my work anymore, or I'm not enjoying my relationship anymore, or like, you know, I'm not making time for my creative ventures. There'll be little clues which you can choose to take notice of or not, depending on where you're at in your conscious awareness. And I want to try and teach women to awaken to their true and understand their true creative potential and power. So if a woman is stepping into her feminine, like women by nature are feminine and female, but mostly and culturally, we've been entrained to be people pleasers. We've been entrained to be in a kind of 9 to 5 male orchestrated 9 to 5 world. And like we try and go up here to figure things out. So we go to the top side, the yang side of our being, to try and figure things out, which most often gets us into more chaos. Because the feminine, she's a creative force. She has huge creative potential, and she can create chaos or she can create art. And a lot of women live in this place of creating chaos and drama and places of stuckness, unconsciously and innocently. And me too. Like, there's no judgment here. I've been to all these places and lived in all these places unconsciously for a very, very long time. Now, as I deepened my understanding around my own femininity and how I had lived in the topside yang world of running a business and being in go, 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 and I would have told you I was in my body, but I really wasn't in my body because I was doing lots of exercises with attachment to an outcome. I wasn't doing what I do now, which is intuitive movement and responding to intuitive nudges, although much of my life has been lived like that. I didn't know that that's what I was necessarily doing. So to be stepping more into your truth, to be stepping more into your intuitive nature, to be more in tune with your know and your knowing, to be more attuned to your body and its needs and your nervous system, creates an energetic stillness. So there's less chaos, there's less drama, there's less attention to detail, there's less content, there's less lament, there's less fear, there's less anxiety, there's less stuckness. What that does when you're in relationship with another human is it starts to change the dynamics of that union. Now, it doesn't matter to me personally if you're in a relationship with another man or another woman, but the lady in question has asked this question from the perspective of a heterosexual relationship. If your energy starts to change in a relationship, what can happen is the man in this instance will feel that unconsciously, a change, and potentially unconsciously feel unsafe in that change in his wife, in his partner, and try to push your buttons to get you back where he knows you. And as I've said previously, women in our culture have been conditioned and entrained to be the people pleaser, to take care of everyone else before themselves, to be the nurturer. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all, because I love those places in me, but I no longer do it to please other people. But the nuance and the layer in that is we have learned to keep ourselves safe by doing that. So as I said, I'm going to try and touch the pieces of this, but I won't be able to get into the full depths. So the first piece is if someone is stepping more into their femininity, they're saying no, they are operating from truth and whatever that means for you in any moment without attachment to anything else, the partner that's been used to you being a certain way, if they get triggered, it's something in them that's feeling unsafe. The second part, and I am going to go deeper into this, and I'm trying to be careful about the words that I use because I don't want to trigger anybody and I don't want anyone to think this is me saying something that I'm not. The second part of the question is, she says, I saw a woman who stepped into her high feminine. Um, the uh, the consequence is that a man will relax into his masculine energy. And so what I hear in that is there's an expectation that in this question, the man in question is not responding how she'd like, which means she has an egoic preference about how he is being around her, which means there's attachment to an outcome, which means, as far as I can sense, the person is not in her high feminine energy. Because someone who's in their high feminine energy, and this isn't a hierarchical thing, this is something, again, I've explained in my circle, so hence the language. I want you to try and think about it as two energetic channels in your system, and this is in both men and women, a polarity, a yin and a yang. And there's an energy of feminine and there's an energy of masculine in every single human. And the way that I have learned this and the language around it is that high feminine, high masculine, swampy feminine, wimpy masculine, but not derogatory terms, no hierarchy, as I said. It's just a way in which someone will show up. So a high feminine, someone in their high feminine is blindfolded. She is not scared of the unknown. She implicitly trusts the command or the intuitive nudge of and from the high masculine. The masculine is always the provider. And there's no attachment. She blindly follows the intuitive nudge and creates. So in essence, he holds the frame and she creates the art. This is going on internally and externally. In your outside world, it will usually be mirrored what's going on internally. So if someone's in their high feminine, they will be blindly following their intuitive nudge or their command, their inner command or their inner knowing, and they will implicitly trust and have faith, regardless of the outcome, that it was the right move, the right action to take, the right thing to create. If there's attachment, it means that it's kind of transactional. If I'm in my high feminine, I want him to be more in his masculine energy, which means I'm not okay with where he is right now. So if I try and change myself, I will change him and we'll both benefit. The energy of that is not clean. It's coming with an attachment to or an egoic preference about how my man is. If I'm working on myself and trusting myself, and if I know everything is in divine order, I don't need my partner, male, female, husband, to be any way in the world. Because how I am being and how I am attuning to my own needs is enough. But if I have an egoic preference about my partner, husband, I will start to get niggly and find fault, which is a mirror, to like how I'm thinking about myself. And the really important point about this is that the feminine frequency, the creative potential that you have as a woman goes first. Which means that whatever we believe about ourselves, whatever deep rooted, conditioned beliefs at our core, is what we emanate vibrationally and what we put out to the world. And you might understand that through like somebody walks into a room and you can feel their energy, like you just feel them, right? And that can work in all the ways. So again, I want you to hear this because this is very deep learning. So if my frequency goes first and my partner or husband is responding to my frequency, all unconscious, it can look like they're doing something to us. So I get to stay in this sort of creative chaos and drama and story and narrative. Because remember, our brain is finding evidence for our theory. And there's deep personal responsibility here. But because most of us don't understand this, we don't understand our creative power, our creative potential, the kind of yeah, the ways that we create. If you think about the metaphor of the egg and the sperm, the egg is just sitting. So she is the egg. She's just sitting in her ovarian throne in darkness and apparent stillness. She just sits there and waits. The sperm that has been provided by a male is coming towards the egg, but it looks like she's just still in the darkness. But what she's actually doing is emanating a frequency to draw the highest potential sperm seed towards her. So she's emanating a frequency and the sperm is responding. And I don't want you to hear this, like if you're in any kind of abusive relationship in any way, this does not apply. And if you have experienced trauma as a little girl in any way from men, this equally doesn't apply. Like this is probably the wrong transmission for you. But if you are in a relationship and you are, on this journey of understanding your feminine nature, there is a creational potency to you, but often it's unconscious and unrecognized because we often live in a painful place of like victim or damsel in distress, or like this thing's happening to me. So I'd ask the person that asked the question, why do you need him to be in his masculine energy? What is it about the fact that you want him to be relaxed? Because what's going on for him? And why is that stopping you from staying in your own stillness? What is it that you need? What is your desire in this? Where can you look at how you've been creating this innocently and unconsciously to feed a narrative that might be running behind the scenes? Because the more you can get honest with yourself and not need somebody to be a certain way for you to be okay, and remember, these are deep layers of female limbic system learned safety protective mechanisms. So the more you can attune to yourself and your needs without attachment to how someone else shows up in the world. Because as a lot of women I meet, they start this journey and their partners or husbands do not choose to come with them. And then there's all sort of like, I sort of see, he's not doing this work that I'm doing, this kind of egoic preference, as I've said before, which creates distance and constriction often because there's an egoic judgment on someone else's sovereign choice to be whatever they want to be. So a sort of a different way of creating drama and chaos and story for us. And again, I've been to all of these places, so I'm not judging you. And these are difficult places of to teach. And I hope that I'm doing it justice, really, or I hope I'm doing justice to the woman who asked, because I think very highly of the woman who asked the question, and it wouldn't serve anyone if I were to not speak the truth about this, about how we create stories, we birth what we believe, we are the matrix. Matrix actually means womb. We birth what we believe over and over and over again. We create the alchemical third thing. So the metaphor of the egg and the sperm, there's a third thing that gets created. So in masculine and feminine relationships, there's a third thing that often gets created. We multiply that. From the seed, we can provide a child, like we multiply that. So it's really looking at what we actually want for ourselves without needing someone else to be a certain way, because we've each got our own journey, we've each got our own learnings, and respecting other people's right to do and be and have whatever experience that they're meant to have. And men value freedom, and they do not often want to be told, unless they're paying for it, what they aren't doing or, you know, what they're not being. Women are much more inclined to be drawn to that, but even women don't really take kindly to being told, again, unless they're paying for it. They're asking to learn. And just think about, you know, I'm not suggesting that you have said anything to him, but if you're picking up that he's not where you think he should be, there's judgment. There's judgment there. And a kind of transactional energy. It's not about when a woman steps into her high feminine, the man is supposed to do this. It doesn't work that way. A man will respond to your energy or not. What he chooses to provide for you or not is and how he does that is what we receive and what we choose to be seeded with. Anyway, I will be doing a longer transmission on this feminine frequency in my circle community in the month of February. If this speaks to you in any way or you have any questions, please do join me in the circle and we will be going into this. And it will be but it's rather wonderful. Thank you for the question, and thank you for providing the inspiration for this week's Ask Me Anything. If you have a question for next week's Ask Me Anything, please send it my way. Otherwise, I'll see you somewhere sometime. Lots of love.